so very happy that you've chosen to join us once again for the Bible Tract Echoes radio broadcast. Those of you that were with us yesterday know that we began a discussion with my predecessor, the former director, the former good-looking director of Bible Tracts, if you ask him about it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you find the Bible Tract Echoes podcast and make sure you listen to the episode yesterday. But I have the privilege of spending a few more moments today with Pastor Mark Smith, the gentleman that was at the helm of this ministry, both the radio portion of the ministry here on the Bible Tract Echoes radio broadcast, and the director of Bible Tracts Incorporated for all of 15 years, and a good 15 years it was. So excited to share my radio platform with him once again. So appreciate his personal investment in me as well. Those of you that are maybe for the first time being introduced to Bible Tracts Incorporated through this broadcast, Bible Tract Echoes, let me tell you a little bit about who we are. We have the privilege of being based out of Bloomington, Illinois. Bible Tracts Inc. is our name, and our goal, our burning passion, is the printing, the distribution, the shipping of gospel tracts free of charge all over the world. We've been doing it for over 80 years. And I am thrilled to be talking to you today with Pastor Mark Smith on the broadcast because he is going to give us a great picture of our founder, Evangelist Paul Levine. Now, that name right here and now might not mean anything to you. Some of you that are listening, you know who I'm talking about, good old Dr. Paul. But let me tell you this, if you don't know the man, I'd love for you to listen on. Dr. Paul Levine passed away in 1996, and I am so very glad, even though I never had the chance to meet him in person, I am so very pleased that I have the privilege of picking up his mantle in some small way and carrying on his legacy for reaching the lost through Bible Tracts Incorporated. And that's why I'm so glad to share this platform with Pastor Mark Smith, my predecessor, today. Those of you that were listening yesterday know that I unfortunately left you on a cliffhanger. We were just about to dive into a discussion of Dr. Paul, and so that's where we will return today. We talk about Brother Levine. We talk about his kind, gracious, prayerful wife, Miss Dorothy, as well. You don't want to miss the next few moments. If you have any interest in Bible Tracts Incorporated, stay tuned right here. Without much further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our interview that was previously recorded, but I do believe it will be a help to you. Now, let me say this. If you would like to listen to the interview in full, in all of its entirety, you can actually find it on my personal podcast. Just search for the Micah McCurry Podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find it there. And if you can believe it, you can actually watch the video version of this program on our YouTube page, just Bible Tracts Incorporated. Just search for Bible Tracts Inc. on YouTube and you'll find it. You'll actually be able to see Pastor Mark Smith for yourself if you'd like to. But regardless, don't go anywhere right now. Listen in as Pastor Mark Smith and myself discuss the great man that was Dr. Paul Levine. So let's talk about the legacy of Bible Tracts. You coming in 2004, and Paul Levine had passed away previous to that, but not that long ago at that point.
Talk 96.
Sure, and talk about your perception of Bible Tracts maybe coming in. Maybe you were more familiar with it than I was. When I first got the call and said, hey, there's this position of Bible Tracts, maybe you should look into it. And of course, we know where that led. But I'll be honest with you, I had no clue who Paul Levine was or Bible Tracts, and I was saddened by that. And so I try my best often to mention his name on the radio. But where were you 8 years after his death? What was your memory of Paul Levine, if you had any?
Well, I never met Dr. Paul Levine, and I had used the tracts in our church ministry. And the last church I pastored before coming to Bible Tracts, we had a large gospel tract center, and the man who was the chairman of the board came to the church. He saw this tract display, and he said, I guess the people here believe in tracts. We began to talk, and the rest, as they say, is history. But I had used tracts with Dr. Paul Levine's name on them, but that was it. I'd never heard him preach and all that kind of thing. So as God brought me there, I was hired to come in and continue the legacy of Paul Levine. And we came, and so the first thing I did, I found all the cassette tapes, and we had a bunch of them that had messages of Paul Levine. I wanted to find out what made this man tick. I heard messages that he preached in local churches and messages that he preached at the Bill Rice Ranch and so
Hmm.
on. I found out the passion of this man was just ran hot to see people, particularly young people, teenagers, come to Christ, be strong in the faith, and be faithful to God from early age onward. And as I got to know him through his preaching and reading the materials that we had of him and so on, I said, man, oh man, I have huge shoes. He was called the dean of evangelists in the Midwest. He
Mm.
was just literally thousands of people came to Christ under his ministry. I knew my gift was pastoral, but I had to do the work of an evangelist, and the bar was set amazingly high. And so I said, okay, I can't be Paul Levine. I have to be Mark Smith, but how do I keep the passion of his life for evangelism, seeing people come to Christ, walk with Christ, grow in Christ? How can I do that? And so that was what I saw as my passion, my job, my task as I started the ministry there in 2004. So,
Absolutely. We'll get into the practical application of tracks because people always love to hear, and
oh,
even now, I still get people that talk about how one little thing that you said back in the day on the radio program has been the difference for them. And then
yeah,
we continue kind of a Track and Truth Tuesday and go beyond the track
yeah,
and things like that.
yeah.
But talk about the fact that, and in my knowledge, the amount of people I've met that so fondly recall Paul Levine's name. It's
Uh,
almost like a Joseph complex where I have
yes,
yet to hear an ill word about it. And you know
yeah.
this to be true. I don't even say this sarcastically, but us Christian brethren have no problem talking about people, especially when they're not in the room or passed away. And yet, and yet, for Paul Levine, it seems to be the exact opposite. And I know during your time frame, you would have even been around more people that were
Right,
alive and really influenced by his ministry.
right.
But talk about that influence of positivity, but for the gospel's sake that he had.
Paul Levine had a winsomeness about him. You could hear that in his sermons, but in, like you say, the people that I met, the winsomeness with which he would come alongside of, frankly, total strangers, and in about 2 minutes, they thought they had known him forever, and he had this ability to look them in the eye, speak truth with a smile, a little smile on the corner of his lips, so that that was kind of his ability to speak the truth in love, and just what he spoke zeroed into the heart of people like a dagger. The word of God is quick and powerful, isn't it? And he just had that ability. I heard story after story of him even going to a county fair, and he would be there and he would talk to somebody at the hot dog stand or whatever. The next thing you know, they're over to the side. He's sharing with them the gospel, and he had an ability to get into the gospel with people that he had honed that skill over decades of his life. But let me just say this before we don't. His dear wife Dorothy, they never had any children. She was the staff when Bible Tracts began, but her prayer life for her husband was dynamic.
Hmm.
She maintained his soul before the throne of grace, and I've heard him say a couple of times in sermons about her role in making him into the man of God and giving him the power that God that you saw in his ministry, that his wife was the underpinning of that. We need to say that about Dorothy. We do.
Absolutely, and so greatly appreciate. And that's something that, from my perspective, so many years removed that we don't even get
Yeah.
to see.
No.
And I
No.
really do believe, and we're speaking about the current right now, but something that has really been impressed upon me is the need for prayer.
Oh,
And it's something that, for those that are listening right now, if the Lord leads you to financially support Bible Tracts, fantastic. There's many ways you can do that. And at the end of the program, the announcer will tell you all about how you can contact us. But in reality, something that everybody can do, regardless of your financial worth and all of
absolutely.
that, is you
Absolutely.
can pray. And it's amazing to see the few times, and I say few to my own shame, but the few times that I've really put an emphasis, both personally and, if I can say this, professionally, meaning in ministry, on prayer, it's
Yeah.
amazing to see what God
Yeah.
does when we
Yeah.
actually rely upon him. And this is not some cliche. Yes, we'd love your financial support, but more than that, we truly need your prayer support. And to see a man like Paul Levine, the impact he made, and his legacy is lived on. Could we make the case, and I think we could, that the reason Bible Tracts continues on, and so many ministries falter and fail
Right.
after the first generation passes off
Right.
the scene, and how much is to be owed to Miss Dorothy and her vital prayer support as a prayer
Yeah.
warrior, and
Yeah.
so greatly appreciate you bringing that to light. As we draw to the close of the radio program today, I think it's readily apparent that you cannot talk to Pastor Mark Smith without in some way leaving encouraged. And I so greatly appreciate that about the man. If you would, consider joining us at Bible Tracts Incorporated in prayer. Here's how you can do that. If you'd like to join our prayer band, do this. Text the word pray, PRAY, to this phone number, 309 316 7240. One more time, text the word PRAY to this phone number, 309 316 7240. We have a group of people, literally hundreds strong, that are encircling the clock 24 hours a day. We're striving to have someone, at least during one segment of an hour through the 24 hours of the day, praying for Bible Tracts Incorporated. We'd love for you to join us in that way. Who knows? You could be the next Dorothy Levine, and by that I mean the undergirding, the foundation, the reason that this ministry strives to go forward and is successful in doing so could be due to your prayer support. I so greatly appreciate your listenership support. We have some big things coming up very soon. I'm so excited to share them with you. Even now, if you would, prayerfully consider how God would want you to be a part of our ministry. If the Lord's leading you to financially partner with us, we'd love to do that. But more than anything, truly, consider praying for Bible Tracts and please for myself, Brother Micah McCurry. Greatly appreciate your listenership today. God bless. Have a great day.